Long before the rivers of Umude found their curse and before the moon learned to hide behind clouds, the gods of the village made a covenant with man. It was said that when famine swept across the land and pestilence buried half of Umude's people, the high priest of that time pleaded for mercy from the unseen. The spirit that answered was not of mercy, but of balance. I will feed your land, the spirit said, but every 30 years you will feed me a bride. The elders agreed, and so every 30 harvests, when the moon set red and swollen over the hills, a young woman will be chosen, silent, pure, untouched by man, to be wed to the spirit of the drums, the ancient guardian who ruled over the forest and the echoes. Those who resisted vanished, those who accepted never returned. The drums were both invitation and sentence. Every child of Umude grew up fearing the night they might sound again. Kenile was born in the 27th year after the last offering. She grew up with the rhymes of fear woven into her childhood song. Her grandmother, the oldest woman in Umude, often sat by the fire and whispered tales of the last bride, Unkolika, who vanished into the forest wrapped in white clothes, leaving behind a single drop of blood on her wedding veil. Now, as Kenile turned 20, whispers returned to the village. Like shadows creeping from forgotten graves, the air grew heavy, the birds quieter, and the drums, those forbidden drums, began to beat again. It started faintly one night, a doom, 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 so slow it could have been mistaken for thunder, but the elders knew. The spirit calls, they said. At first, Kenile laughed it off until her own name began to appear in strange places, carved into her father's palm tree, stretched into the dust by an unseen hand, whispers in her dreams. Kenile. She would wake up breathless, the faint echoes of drum fading in her chest. When the council of elders gathered, every family locked their daughter indoors, praying the gods would choose another home. But fate, cruel as always, had its eyes on one. That evening, as the moon bled red, the chief priest, Opoko, stood at the village square, holding a calabash filled with water from the sacred stream. He began to chant, his voice trembling like dried leaves. The water turned cloudy, then cleared again, revealing the reflection of a girl's face. Kenile, the daughter of Ugo and Nkem, you are the chosen one. A wail rose from her mother's heart, sharp enough to break the night. Her father fell to his knees, but the law was older than love, and no one, not even the chief priest, could deny the drums. In 3 nights, she will be married to the spirits. They dressed her in silence. The rituals demanded that no word be spoken to the chosen bride once her name was called, or the spirits would grow jealous and take another. Her hair was washed in palm oil, her body rubbed with white chalk and ground camwood. She was not to eat anything for 3 days, only water from the sacred pot. On the 3rd night, she would walk to the forest alone, guided by the sound of the drums. But Kenile was not like the brides before her. She had questions that no one dared to ask aloud. Why did the gods need a bride? What became of them after the drum stopped? And most of all, what if she refused? On the 2nd night, unable to bear her silence, Kenile sneaked out of the hut. The forest called to her, and though every story warned against entering it at night, curiosity was stronger than fear. She carried only a lamp and her courage. The air was cold, the ground soft beneath her bare feet, and then she heard it. A whisper, faint but clear. You came early. She froze. From the darkness stepped a figure draped in white. His skin shimmered like moonlight, his eyes deep as night river. The air bent around him, carrying a low hum like a drum beat made of breath. Who are you? Kenile whispered. "The groom you seek," the spirit said. "But you should not have come before the hour. The others waited. That is why they are gone." What happened to them?" He tilted his head. They became part of the rhythm. Then he smiled, a slow, sorrowful smile, and vanished into mist. On the third night, the drum thundered louder than ever. The entire village gathered at the edge of the forest, torches raised. Kenile stood still, her white veil trembling in the wind. The chief priest held the ritual staff high and shouted, "Let the gods take what belongs to them." The crowd knelt. The ground shook. From the forest came a gust of wind that extinguished every torch. In that darkness, only the drum spoke, ancient, furious, alive. Kenile took one step forward, then another, and another. The tree parted ways, revealing a path of glowing red earth. The deeper she went, the quieter the world became, until even her heartbeat matched the drums. At the forest edge, the spirit waited, tall, radiant, crowned with feathers of flame. "Kneel," he said, and his voice was the sound of a thunder roaring beneath the world. She obeyed. "You are the last," he whispered. "After tonight, the covenant ends." He placed his hand on her forehead, and her mind filled with vision. Hundreds of brides before her, dancing endlessly in the heart of the forest, their faces pale, their eyes empty, their hands moving in eternal rhythm. "Why me?" she cried. "Because you are the one who must choose to continue the curse or to end it." He showed her two drums, one made of wood and skin, and another of bone and ash. "If you strike the wooden drum," he said, "Umude lives. The field will flourish, and your people will never know hunger again, but you will remain here, my eternal bride. If you strike the drum of bone, the covenant will break. You will live, but Umude will pay the price: famine, drought, and death." Kenile stood trembling. She could see her mother's face in her mind, her father's prayer, her people's laughter. And then she looked at the spirits of the former brides, watching her silently. They were no longer alive, but they were not dead either. With tears burning her eyes, she lifted the drumstick and struck the drum of bones. The silence after the drum. The forest screamed. The spirit staggered back, his form breaking apart into dust and light. The ground split open, swallowing the drum, the shrine, the path, and everything. Kenile ran as the forest burned behind her. It raised cries like dying men. She reached the village at dawn, collapsing in the square. The villagers gathered around her, whispering, "She returned." For the first time in history, a bride came back. But that night, the sky refused to rain. The river dried up. The yam turned black in the earth. The drums were gone, and so were their blessings. Umude began to starve. Years passed. The people forgot the song of abundance. Kenile became a wandering woman, cursed by those she once called her own. Yet she carried no regret. Until one night, on the 30th harvest after her return, she heard a faint sound again. Dum, 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 coming from her chest. She looked down and saw mark forming on her skin, drum's pattern glowing faintly. Then she heard his voice, soft as the wind. "The curse is never broken, Kenile. It only changes its bride." She smiled bitterly, tears in her eyes. "Then let me be the last." And with that, she walked alone into the forest, where no one ever saw her again. But when the moon turns red over Umude, the villagers say they can hear a single drum beat echoing from the trees, slow, sorrowful, and eternal, a reminder that the silent bride still dances for them.